Okay, Gary, my first question to you is where did it all begin for you? How did your career get started?
Well, I originally thought I was going to go be a lawyer, and I made the mistake of spending a year in law school. And then I happened one night to meet someone in a bar who told me that he was doing high school sports for Newsday back in the day, and they needed part-time writers. And I became a journalist, and then I just kept writing. And my first novel, Take Me Up to the Ball Game, was published, and the man who went to play center field for the New York Yankees. And my sixth novel, A Fastball for Freedom, just came out. And I also write plays, Black and White Cookie.
Awesome, excellent. I want to talk about your play, Black and White Cookie. That sounds like an interesting play. The concept, very realistic, very what we need, very realistic in our life, world.
Yes, absolutely. We need to bring people together. And I think as a writer, as long as there's some writers who want to preach and propagandize, and I'm not for that. I always believe that the best stories are from just regular people, ordinary people swept up in extraordinary times, unintentional heroes. And I think that there's so much divisiveness in the world, and that's an old story. That's not suddenly been invented, in the past few years. As people who don't know history want to talk about that. Actually, I'm watching an Apple TV series called 1971, When the Music Changed the World, or something like that. But anyway, and they were talking about just how divided and polarized America was then. And you go back to the 60s and on and on. I'm not going to go on about history too much. But I think as a writer, you want to set up the situation where people who are very different find a way to come together. And that's what I try to do in my dystopian science fiction baseball novels, A Mound Over Hell and A Fastball for Freedom, that's set in 2098 after America has lost World War III to the Islamic Empire. And we're surrounded, and there's a new entity governing America called the family, where, for example, patriotism is outlawed. You can't sing the national anthem. You can't show the American flag because that represents the old America, the great power America, which has failed and dragged us, or lost actually, the war. And then baseball is associated with treason. And baseball in the novels begins its final season at the last ballpark, Amazon Stadium. It used to be called Yankee Stadium. And then we're off to the races. And baseball, ultimately, in book 2, is set up as maybe it will help save the world, along with faith. But it's people coming together.
Absolutely. I'm going to order some of your books off of Amazon. I'm looking forward to reading them.
Thank you. And I'll send you bookmarks.
Okay. Thank you very much. My next question to you is, what is the most difficult part of being a writer? What is most challenging for you?
Oh, it's the blank page, Trey. It's that damn blank page. When, you wake up and you get, I usually start work before 9 o'clock, and my routine is I spent decades in the business world, and when I left it, I decided I never wanted a desk again, ever. So my office is very, very small. It's an end table, an easy chair, and my dog, my little pug, who curls up in my lap and is my muse. But you start the day and you look at the blank page and you say, uh-oh, please don't let this be the day when you don't have anything left. Philip Roth, this said something wonderful about writing. There's a lot of things said about writing, and some of them are very, trite, but this is great advice for writers. He said, when you finish your work day as a writer, don't exhaust yourself. Don't write yourself out. Have enough in the tank, a paragraph even, to start the next day's writing. And that just gives you that little bit of momentum. And it's a wonderful, brilliant trick. Philip Roth knew a few things about writing. So I think that's the most challenging. That's one of the most challenging things. I think dealing with all the characters. In my novels, I have lots of characters. And again, this sounds very strange and precious, but it's true that writers will say, Philip Dick, who I love, one of my literary heroes, because great science fiction writer said it, that characters will take over and write your story. And I can't tell you how many times I've sat down, started out a scene where I thought it was going to go, and they just take over. They're like, well, what are you, fool? I wouldn't do that. Thank you very much. I'm not going to say that. What's wrong with you? And it's weird to say this because the characters are my characters, but they have their own life in your head. And if they don't...
Ooh. Okay, but yeah, I understand what you were saying. Your characters take over your book because, you create your book, your vision of the world and the characters and the plot in your head. You make a vision of that in your head, and it really becomes part of you. Because you are creating it.
Well, yes, absolutely. You must really feel it. I mean, one of the best things as a writer is you have to write what you feel. Whatever you feel, you just have to make sure that you don't decide for the reader. And what I mean by that is that my characters, like I said, it's a sprawling novel. There are things that are controversial about it. It's America, which is no longer democracy. We're past capitalism. Things like social media are banned, for example, under the Anti-Narcissism Act. Religion is banned. The opinion journalism, entertainment industry, banks, lawyers are banned under the anti-parasite laws. So it's kind of a benevolent tyranny, but it's built on love, actually. It's built on relationships and family, and there's no identity politics. So there's a lot of controversial things in there. And then we have had a war which we lost to the Islamic Empire. So there's the element of hate on both sides. So if you're going to be right, then you have to write honestly and not shy about things. But my point is that when you write passionately about things, you have to, it's up to you, Trey, reading my novel to decide who you like as a character. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say, except in the rarest of circumstances, well, this is a bad guy, this is a bad girl. It's, you decide. I don't always agree with things my characters do, even the ones I like. Sometimes it's like, oh, really? Come on. Come on. It's like life, right? We all know people. We've all done it. Like, oh, no, I can't believe I said or did that. But it's up to the reader to decide, because ultimately, once you finish the novel or once you finish a play and it's on stage, it doesn't belong to you anymore. There's no right or wrong. Someone says, oh, I like this. Is that right? No, it's whatever you like. And that's kind of the wonderful magic about reaching out to people who you don't know, who you have never met, but you touch them somehow. It's really beautiful. Because without the readers, without the audience, the writers, don't exist.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to have fans, your audience, and you write for them, you don't write for yourself, and like you said, the reader gets their own perspective of the book. Every reader has their own opinion and their own response to the book. It becomes, they have their little imagination,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Your Trey's idea of what blue looks like is different than Gary's idea of what blue looks like. There you go, right? Right?
Yeah,
I can describe a character, but you're going to see the character differently than me, which is wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, that book just came out. Do you have any upcoming projects? Are you working on a new book or any screenplays for plays or anything?
Well, I have, so books 1 and 2, A Mound Over Hell and A Fastball for Freedom. They're books 2 of the trilogy, and I'm working on the final novel, A Dugout for Peace. Mm. So I have to finish that, hopefully, by the end of the year, beginning of the next year. And my play, A Black and White Cookie, which was supposed to open last March in New York City. Man plans, God laughs, right? and we know that. That's so much for that. But I've had 5 Zoom productions already from theater companies from the UK to Los Angeles to New York to Washington, D.C., and hopefully it will be start getting live performances once we really open up. In the play, again, it's about people coming together in it. 60-something African-American conservative male, Harold Wilson, finally reopens his New York City newsstand after the pandemic, after the shutdown, only to get hit by an exorbitant rent increase. So he's forced to close and retire to Florida with his niece, which he does not want to do. But enter Albie Sands, who's a 1960s radical who persuades him to try to take on the system and fight the landlord. So despite them being very different, and they realize that the things they have in common mean more than the things that they have different. And so it's, it looks at prejudice. In this case, it uses the prism of anti-Semitism to get through the fact of what happens when good people have prejudiced views, Trey. I mean, I don't really I don't really worry about neo-Nazis. Sorry, I just don't. Mm-hmm. It's the good people who look away, who mainstream prejudice against all people, against everyone. That's, this is, to me, hate is hate, no matter where it comes from, against who it's directed. Those are the ones, the good people who have to stand up. And I think that's what the play, really is about. And it's about two old guys. And it's funny, too.
Absolutely. And I like your plays and your books because it represents, it's like our world, our reality, it's still going on in our world,
Yes.
Bits and
pieces. It's got to be about people that you identify with, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much hate and anti-Semitism and racism and, the world used to be a great place, not just America, but the world. And it's sad, and hopefully one day, this shall pass. The actor Morgan Freeman had a great quote about racism. A reporter asked him, what do you do to stop racism? And he said, stop talking about it. Stop spreading this, because you talk the words, it gives it more power,
Yes, exactly. Yes, because they're just words. Mm-hmm. And, we're people. And at the end of the day, the thing, people are people. We just want to be happy. I don't care what you are, where you live. You want to be happy. You want to be healthy. You want to find someone to share your life with. You want to have a good job, your children, your friends to be okay. I mean, it's not really brain surgery, right? There's only so much that you need, but you need that in your heart, and you have to treat other people properly and with respect. And I think that somehow keeps getting forgotten.
Absolutely, yeah. The golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Well, my next question to you is, do you find there's a difference between writing books and writing plays? Is there a difference?
Well, yes, because when you write a book, it's just you. Mm-hmm. You're locked up in the room, in your mind, in your universe, and good or bad, it's your name on it, and that's it. So whether you succeed or fail, you're the one who must take the responsibility. When you work on a play, it's exciting, it's exhilarating. It's also, it's a sense of danger because you're collaborating. And again, people will have different interpretations, and you hope that they're going to be respectful enough to your play and your words, but you don't want them to be captive to it. Because however you wrote the words, dialogue, and however you might in your head thought they should be said, you've got to get out of the way. You've got to let the actor interpret and feel and internalize and create their own backstories. And certainly you've got to let the director, direct. Mm-hmm. I've been fortunate in my Zooms to work with some really wonderful directors, Jacqueline Hume in Washington and Maury Shore in Los Angeles and Emma Schwartz in New Jersey and Alan Dawson in England. Really, terrific people who have brought their own interpretations while collaborating. And that's, again, it's like human relationships. You collaborate and you respect each other, you get it done, but you gotta let people do their job too. You can't